Joining me now to discuss it is Mobius Emerging Opportunities Fund Chairman Mark Mobius. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
What do you think of Wells Fargo's assessment?
I think they're wrong. And the reason why I say this is that, generally speaking, it may be odd to say this, but Trump has been great for emerging markets. Why? First of all, he's put the pressure on China, which means a lot of the Chinese manufacturing has to go to other emerging countries around the world. Secondly, he's weakened Xi. Xi Jinping has been very bad for markets because he's emphasized state control. Now, there may be a situation now in China emerging where Xi is pushed in the background and you get more market-oriented leaders coming into play, which will be good for China. And that's maybe what the MSCI China Index is telling us. Because one of the reasons why MSCI emerging markets is up is because China is up. China is the biggest element in that index. Of course, India is very good as well. So you're having a situation where these emerging markets are beginning to come into their own. The other thing that's happened, it's very interesting. Everybody got scared about Trump coming in with trade tariffs and so forth. And so a lot of the exporters in these emerging countries started converting their dollars into local currencies. So you've seen a rise in these emerging market currencies, which will be temporary. They'll come back. But that's another factor which has been playing into this whole situation with emerging markets.
A couple of weeks ago, you were 95% cash. If you so believe in emerging markets, why were you so conservative when it came to your money and your investments? And where are you now? Is it still 95%?
Now it's 65, 70% in cash. But we're in no rush. One of the reasons why we've had a lot of cash is that, you know, in this new fund that we've launched, we're now just getting started to get the custodial factors into these markets. For example, India takes 3 or 4 months to get into the market to set up the custodial situation. So we'll be there within the next month or so. So I think the cash will come down significantly in the next few months.
You've mentioned India twice now in this interview. India obviously has been a place where Apple, for example, who's been under a lot of pressure by President Trump to move its huge operations in China back to the U.S., has been very pointed in saying, don't set them up in India, even though they already have started that process, and have said they will move a huge chunk of it to India. He says, I want it in the U.S. So are you taking that into consideration as you pound the table on India?
Of course, we take that into consideration, but let's face it, there's no way that they can move everything to the U.S. And most importantly, India's extremely strong in software. You know, one of the interesting things about India is because of this bureaucracy in India. It's pretty bad. And a lot of these companies in India would have liked to be exporting hardware. Until now, they've begun to get a start on that because some of the regulations have been loosened. But before this, software was the big deal because companies didn't need to get a license to telephone a software piece of work to other countries around the world. So some of the largest software companies in the world are in India. And where's their markets? They're all over the world.
Mark, as we look at the broader market, we do see that we've lost the gains, at least for the Dow Jones Industrials, which has turned red, down about 15 points. NASDAQ is up 48, but the S&P has also turned red. These are on-again, off-again markets with so many headlines. How do you view U.S. equities? I know that you like tech, infrastructure, and consumer staples, but overall, is the road going to remain rough? I
think the U.S. market is going to do very well later on, let's say 4 or 5 months from now, because some of the Trump changes are going to take effect. Look, if this big tax bill is passed, this will be very, very good for emerging markets and the U.S.
Mark Mobius, wonderful to have you. I know you're hopping planes every second of your life, so we appreciate you stopping by and landing here on the Claman Countdown.